changes using Google Analytics experiments. Okay guys, before we start, some proper phone conduct. So keep your cell phone on and tweet. If there's any questions that you have, any comments, just reply to me at Antonie Geerts and using the hashtag SBPCRO. Okay? So, about me. So my name is Antonie. I've been a consultant for many Irish and international companies over the last decade. I've worked for a digital agency for many years, dealing with enterprise customers as well as other businesses. I provide training on digital marketing, specializing in SEO, CRO, online advertising and analytics for over more than 3 years now. I'm also the founder of Seditio, which is a digital consultancy and training company. My talk is about Google Analytics experiments, and Google Analytics, you know, it's vital in terms of conversion rate optimization. So I just wanted to share with you my interpretation of CRO. So for me, CRO is increasing the number of leads, sales, calls and actions by making changes throughout the conversion funnel to better suit the user. Right, so, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later at the end of this presentation as well. So before we start, how many of you know the number of conversions you had last month? Right? I actually don't need to know the number because most of you probably will know how many conversions you had last month, right? Because you want to check your sales. So it's a very common figure, and you know, any business I talk to, they will know, yes, we had X amount of conversions last month or X amount of sales last month. But now the real important question is, do you know how many conversions you could have had? You know, do you know how many people actually went into that buying cycle, entered your website, added a product to the basket, and then decided to actually not purchase the product anymore? So understanding where in the funnel, in the buying cycle, the user dropped out is vital for conversion rate optimization, because if you know where they drop out, then you can maybe find a different way to say, listen, come back and maybe we'll get you an extra discount. Or maybe you need to change your website slightly so that it's more accessible for those users that are dropping out. Right? So making changes to allow them to stay in the funnel. And that's one thing that we're going to talk about when we talk about A/B testing. And as well, of course, remarketing them with a better offer for relevant products is also extremely important. So if somebody is in the buying cycle and then when they hit billing, they go, well, actually it's too expensive, I might go for something else, then you can remarket them because you know they've been to this particular step and were looking for this particular product. So then you can remarket them saying, well, if you buy this product and buy this product as well, then you get another 5% discount. You know, making use of upsells, making use of where in the funnel are people at, where are they in terms of committing to a buy. So making changes to allow them to stay in the funnel is what I want to talk about first. And to do that, we're going to talk about Google Analytics experiments. So some of you already know me in terms of the workshops or the trainings that I give in terms of Google Analytics. So Google Analytics for me is an amazing tool. I think it's one of the best measuring tools around, and they made it even better by actually creating adding in a functionality for A/B testing. I know there are a lot of other websites that provide A/B testing, like Optimizely, for example, is really pushing hard in terms of LinkedIn promotions and you know, everybody's sharing their stuff. But you know, the foundation, the basics are everywhere there, and they are now in Google Analytics as well. So what I want to talk about is creating your first experiment. And for this A/B test example, I just wanted to show how easy it is to implement A/B testing. So I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, because what I want to get out of it, that after this talk, you guys go back to your office and you can actually say, well, I'm going to do an A/B test now. Right? So it is that simple, and everybody should be able to do it with just minor knowledge of Google Analytics. So for this test, I decided on a following scenario, because I don't have an e-commerce shop. I'm not selling products as much. I'm selling services. So I'm creating one around services, and this one is actually specifically created for this talk. So it's slightly different than I would do with customers, because they would have a product and we would have a history of checking their funnels, and then around the history you would create the A/B test. Whereas in this case, I'm just creating a simple one with the following KPIs. So for one is, what advertising network drives the highest quality traffic? So I'm using Google Display Network, Google Search, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And then, what layout has the longest session duration? So which of my A/B tests works the best? And of course, the last one, how many conversions do I get? So I'll show you my landing page first. So this is the standard landing page. So this is the page I'm going to use as my original page. And then I'm going to create variations. So the original page would be the A, and then the variations would be the B, the C, the D, the E. Right? So that's your A/B test. Testing A, and you're testing everything else. So this is my standard landing page. As you can see, just a couple of notes. So we have an SEO optimized title. So consultancy services, Ireland, Google Analytics. It's a header tag. We have a dynamic banner just showcasing some of the keywords that we're doing. Some relevant content. Both for the user experience, but also in terms of AdWords, to make sure that the ad copy is relevant to the content of the page for your quality score. And of course our conversion. So we have a little request a callback sign up form on the right side. I used one that actually asks for a phone number and a name and a company, and not an email address. The main reason is because I wanted to secure a bit of quality. People tend to give email addresses a lot easier than they give out phone numbers, right? So I wanted to make sure that I don't get too many just random email addresses in there, or spam stuff in there. So and then of course some trust indicators. So I have the analytics certification, the Google Partner certification, and then of course at the bottom we have some more information that you don't see. So for example, this landing page has a no index, no follow. That means that Google is not going to index this page, and any links going out of this page are not going to be followed. So we're telling Google that this page doesn't have any value for you as a search engine, because this page is also not part of the navigation, and it's really purely a landing page and purely to test this this A/B test. Okay, so now let's have a look at the variations. So I created 3 variations. As you can see, I won't go into too much detail because the variations are very minor. So for example, variation 2, instead of having the banner at top, we have the banner at underneath the text. Variation 3, we have the banner in the middle, text at the top, but then we have the navigation on the left side. And then variation 4, we have the stuff on the left side, but then we have the banner on the top. Right? So they're really minor changes. So now let's set them up in analytics. So first of all, going to setting up your first experiment, you have to go to your Google Analytics, to your site, Analytics, and then go to Behavior, and then select Experiments. So now within your experiments, you can actually give a proper name to your experiment test. So let's say in this case it's a landing page test, and then we need to decide of an objective. So what are you measuring? In this case, I set it to session duration, but you can measure, for example, conversions. You can measure how many people are actually buying this product, or how many people are reaching this step in the cycle, or how many people are doing a contact us. So you can select different objectives, and you can actually create them custom through Google Analytics using the goals section, for example. Then of course the percentage of traffic to experiment. Well, this is a landing page, so I want all the traffic to be part of the experiment. And then of course email notifications. So if there's something going on, as in there's a lot of traffic coming to a specific page, or there's something wrong with the experiment, then I'll get an email address. I get an email from Google and they're saying, hey, check your experiment. Some advanced options. So distribute traffic evenly across all variations. So that's again, because this is a landing page and this is a test, I just want to do this evenly. If you don't do this, eventually Google will gear towards the one that has most conversions or most succeeded objectives. And then of course, how long do you want the experiment to run? So a minimum time, so I set it for 2 weeks. And then the confidence threshold. So what does Google need to actually determine which variation is the best, or maybe the original page is the best? Right? So straightforward enough. So now let's have a look at the next step. So here we actually have to put in all our pages. So you can see the top one is our original landing page, the one we started with. Then variation 1, with the banner in the middle on the right nav, variation 2, variation 3. So all these pages are actually their own pages, right? So you need to create your own, you create your original page and then you copy that original page and make minor changes, right? So they all have their own unique page name. So in this case, they're called PPC Google Analytics Consultancy Services, again SEO, and then of course we have a LP1, LP2, LP3, LP4 for the different landing pages. So once you set up your variations, you get a piece of code, and this particular piece of code needs to be loaded in the original page only, right? So this piece of code needs to go in the header of your original page, your original landing page. And then once you've done that, it will work like this. So as you can see, the original landing page is always in the middle, and that's because all the traffic will always hit the original landing page, because the original landing page has that experiment code. So from there on, it will actually decide if you're either going to see the variations or you're going to see the original one, and then it also decides which variation you're going to see. So you also see the ads that I made. So I made a couple. So the top one is our Twitter one, Google experiment test, what works the best. Then we did one on LinkedIn, and also we did one on Google AdWords. And then of course we had a display ad as well, which I'll show you later. So this is the setup, and we ran it for a couple of weeks. And let's have a quick look at the results. Okay, before we start with the results are not that important, because this is really a landing page test, and I just wanted to show you how to set it up. But let's discuss the results anyway, just because there are a couple of nice insights here. So first of all, the advertising statistics. So we saw that Google search had 340 impressions, 4 clicks, and 0 conversions. So it's not many impressions, and that was because I really decided on a very tight campaign. Not just because I wanted to save costs, but also I wanted to see how well it worked when you do a tight campaign. And with tight, I mean I'm not going for broad searches. I'm not going to go for country-wide searches 24/7. I'm really focusing on business users from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 during weekdays. And you can see as well, we got 4 clicks, and the average bounce rate was about 50%. So from the 4 clicks, 2 of them actually landed and left. Which, in fairness, it is a landing page, so I didn't expect a low bounce rate, but the other 2 actually decided to continue navigation in the website. So the Google display, this wasn't a very interesting one, because it had over 100,000 impressions, 164 clicks, 0 conversions, with an average bounce rate of 92% and an average time on the site of 22 seconds. So this is very interesting, because the reason that this is so high in terms of the bounce rate and also in terms of the impressions and clicks is because by default Google AdWords actually selects the display network, or the mobile display network. So even though I put my bidding options to 0 on mobile, you cannot do it on tablet. So any tablet users, so any big phones in a sense, are still part of your display campaign. And there's a lot of apps on the phones that use the Google Display Network. So let's say you're playing Flappy Birds and you have a pause screen and there's a little banner coming in, and that would be my banner. So the problem is there's a lot of misclicks. A lot of games are designed to really rake up clicks and impressions, so as a result the quality was very low. And that's by default. So in order to actually get rid of this, you want to use Display Network, you actually need to go into your placement settings, and you actually need to disable a URL that is used for the Google Display Network for mobile apps. So I didn't realize they actually changed that up so dramatically. So by the time I figured it out, my budget was gone on Google Ads, because I had a small budget, and you can see that the difference, 92% bounce rate. That's not good. LinkedIn. Interesting network as well, because we had about 45,000 impressions, 8 clicks, 2 conversions, $16. Right, so the average bounce rate 66%, and the average time on the site 28 seconds. Now, 8 clicks, so you're paying €2 a click. That's pretty expensive. So in fairness, they did give me 2 conversions. I'm not sure how well the conversions are. I didn't chase them up, to be honest, but they went through the process of putting in some personal information, so they did engage with my connection. Now the last one, Twitter, and that was a little bit disappointing. For one, as you can see, I spent 107 euros on it, and that was very strange because by default Twitter gave me 75 euros for free. So I said, okay, well, fine, I'll let it run. And I was doing the standard sponsored tweets, and then I decided to actually go for a Twitter link, and Twitter link to the landing page, because the sponsored tweets were going as well to the landing page, but indirectly, whereas this one would be going directly. So as you can see, I had about 56,000, 57,000 impressions, 58 link clicks, 1 conversion, and a spend of 107 euros. So that's a pretty expensive amount. Well, if you compare it to LinkedIn, it's like €1.50, €1.60 per click, but only 1 conversion getting out of it, and then still average time on the site 28 seconds. But that's not the only thing that was weird, and I'll show you that now. So total number of sessions 234. The number of conversions 3. The winning page, so the winning variation was the sidebar on the left and the banner in the middle, so you see the little screenshot. That was the winning version. The best performing ad network was LinkedIn, as I showed you before. Worst performing ad network was Google Display. And again, you see this banner, this is one that Google generated automatically. It's not that bad, but it's one of those banners that end up on a mobile app, and that's the misclick, so it's not worth it. So some of the additional remarks, the strange things. First of all, like I said, Google Display uses the mobile app games as part of the mount, as part of the display network by default, so a lot of misclicks and low quality visitors. Twitter claimed to have driven 58 clicks to my landing page. However, in my analytics, I only recorded 10. So I'm actually in dispute with Twitter, and I'm sending them emails saying, well, can you prove to me that those other 48 clicks actually landed on my page? Because I believe they didn't. And maybe it's also my fault in a sense, because normally by default I actually do track my links double, in terms of I'm putting some extra measurement on top of my links. But in this case I didn't really have the time for it, so I just went for the full URL, hoping that Twitter would be able to provide me enough measurement in terms of my referral traffic. But that wasn't the case. And LinkedIn, of course, works well, but it's expensive. And one thing that I don't like of LinkedIn is they charge after the campaign has stopped. So that happened already a couple of times with LinkedIn, where I set a budget of 50 euros a day, and that budget goes through, and then I look at the final result and I see 68 euros spent. They spend another 18 euros extra, and then they say, well, no, you don't have to pay for that, or yeah, if you could pay for it. There is no real consistency there. So I prefer, when it stopped, it stopped. But in fairness, Google does the same. You can top up a Google account with 50 euros, and then in the top right corner it says we'll stop when it reaches 200 euros, and then after that you have to actually pay us 150 more, right? So it's tricky. So you need to be really careful when you start using these particular networks, because they're designed to make money, and you can use them to make money for yourself, but in the first place they're designed to make money for the companies that run them. Okay, so that was our experiment section, and we have some time, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the best practices when you're applying your conversion rate optimization techniques, and this counts more for digital marketing as a whole as well as CRO. So first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about ownership, and that's one of the things that I've been hammering on about. So some of you already know the stuff I published on LinkedIn as well about ownership, because it's so important. I met a lot of clients where they don't own their analytics, or they don't own their AdWords accounts, and then as a result, when they ever move to another agency or another company, they lose that data, right? And that's way too expensive, because first of all, analytics data is way too valuable to actually lose, because you can actually see the trends of how is my website, how is my business performing online. And AdWords is way too expensive not to own, because you're spending money on advertisement. So you need to really find out which keywords work the best. What time of the year did I get most conversions. You know, all that information is so important to optimize your website in terms of conversion rates. So if any of you outsource your analytics and your AdWords and you don't have the accounts, make a change. So talk to your agency and say, listen guys, I need to have access to my AdWords, I need to have access to my analytics. They will come up with excuses of, well, you're going to lose your quality score, you're going to lose. Trust me, you're better off losing your quality score for a short period of time than losing your analytics or your AdWords data for whatever time, for the rest of your relationship, right? So very important that you keep those things in-house. And then of course you can always give access to your agency or to your consultant, but you know, at least you have ownership. So when the relationship is gone, you just remove the person or the agency from your account and you still own the data and you can get somebody else to look at it, or look at it internally, which is even better. Measurement. So measure everything, and that's, you know, it's a lot of work, right? But measuring everything, I mean, and I made the mistake with Twitter not measuring everything. As you can see, that's why I have a dispute now where I'm finding out, well, I paid for 48 clicks that I'm not seeing, and that's because I didn't measure it correctly, because most likely they have been driven into a direct traffic channel. So you need to measure everything. Any activity you're doing driving traffic to your website, you need to measure. You need to measure the advertising platforms, you need to measure the activity on your site. So if somebody clicks on a link, you need to know that link is clicked. So you need to be doing event tracking. And of course you need to know and measure the user journey. So you need to know how people land on your site, land on the product page, and how they go from product page information to adding to basket, to the user information, to the billing information, to the thank you for purchasing information, right? You need to know that journey, because without that information you cannot optimize the journey, you cannot optimize for conversions. And then of course optimize. So reducing spend on low performing ad platforms. So make sure that you don't overspend, make sure you don't automate systems. You know, start with slow spend first, and then after a week or two look again at your spending and say, well, I need to change this. No. Also optimize in terms of remarketing. So remarket at certain stages of the sales funnel, and not just, you know, remarketing seems to be the hype this year, where a lot of companies, yeah, I'm remarketing. So what are you remarketing? Yeah, I don't know. No, what you need to remarket is at certain stages in the sales funnel. So if somebody goes to my site, they add this product to their basket, they go to the user information, they fill in their user information, then they reach billing and they decide not to buy this product, you know, then you need to put in a remarketing code there that says, okay, any user reaching this step but doesn't reach the completed sales step, give them a better offer, because they already went through the whole process of putting in their personal information. So get them a better offer. And of course optimize in terms of try to do changes with your A/B tests. You know, the example that I did was a very simple example, but you can really mess it around completely if you want. You know, you can say, I want a blue page, a red page, and a yellow page, and then different content, see what works best. You know, all the information that you get out of this event, you know, you can test out yourself and you can optimize. And the nice thing is it's not expensive. You know, it's you just create an extra page on your site. You're not making it part of the site navigation, and you just play around. You know, if you don't want to play around with organic visitors, play around with some paid visitors. You know, have a small budget, see what works the best, and then based on that information, implement it further. You know, implement it site-wide. And the last thing, of course, is patience. Measurement takes a lot of effort and time, but it's so worth it. Especially in terms of conversions. You know, if you know how many people were willing to buy a product and didn't buy, when you know that information, you're gonna work so much harder to get those people over the line. So it's really worth the effort. And like I said, measure everything is a lot of, you know, it takes a lot of time. But once you get into that mode of measuring, and once you have a system yourself or with your team, you know, it's worth it, and you'll see it in tenfold. Like I've seen clients where they had 90 conversions a month and they were happy with it, until I looked at their analytics and I saw that they had a goal abandon rate of 40% because they didn't have the right payment options. You know, making a minor change of adding a new payment option in there almost doubled their amount of conversions. You know, they were happy with 90, and now, you know, they had, you know, their conversion rate dropped, increasing your conversion rate another 20%, 30%, that's gold, and only doing a minor change as well. So it's definitely worth it. So that was it. Thank you for listening. I have the PDF version of the presentation here. I have a nice QR code and you can download it directly as well. Also, I'm doing a practical course in September, just in case you're interested in terms of digital marketing as well. So, okay, thank you.